What if I told you that the horned helmet-wearing warriors you've seen in pop culture barely scratch the surface of who the Vikings really were? These weren't just raiders. They were explorers, settlers, and master navigators who reshaped history. From storming monasteries to discovering new lands, the Viking Age was a force to be reckoned with. Let's dive into their world. The Vikings, known for their fearsome reputation, came from Scandinavia, where harsh winters and rugged terrain forged their warrior spirit. By the 8th century, they began their infamous raids, but they weren't merely barbaric invaders. They were also farmers, traders, and brilliant shipbuilders. The Vikings didn't just want to conquer, they wanted to leave their mark on the world. At the heart of Viking success was their advanced technology, the longship. These sleek, versatile boats could navigate both open seas and shallow rivers. Their design allowed the Vikings to strike quickly, invade coastal towns, and travel vast distances. The longship was not just a tool of war, but a symbol of Viking ingenuity and determination. While Christopher Columbus gets credit for discovering America, the Vikings actually reached North America around 1000 AD, long before any other Europeans. Led by Leif Erikson, they established a settlement in what is now Newfoundland, Canada, called Vinland. These early explorers braved unknown waters, proving the Vikings' unmatched maritime skills and fearless nature. From 793 AD, when they attacked the Lindisfarne monastery, the Vikings began a series of devastating raids across Europe. Their raids weren't just about looting, they sought riches, slaves, and territory. They targeted monasteries, which were rich in treasures and poorly defended. These raids triggered fear and were a reminder of the Viking force that seemed unstoppable. Viking warriors were fierce and well-trained. They were known for their brutal fighting skills and ruthless tactics. These warriors fought with axes, swords, and spears, and were often shielded by a round, wooden shield. The Vikings' intense battle rituals and strong sense of brotherhood made them an intimidating force. Fearless in combat, they were the embodiment of Viking strength. Viking mythology is a blend of deep spiritual beliefs and warrior ethos. They worshipped gods like Odin, Thor, and Freyja, whose stories filled their daily lives. The Vikings believed their afterlife was shaped by their actions in battle, and this led to the creation of warriors who lived for glory. Valhalla, the Hall of Odin, was the ultimate reward for those who died fighting bravely. Beyond war and conquest, Viking society was rich in culture. They were skilled craftsmen, builders, and traders. Viking women were often in charge of the household and had significant influence in Viking society. The Viking Age was not just a time of raids, but also a time of art, literature, and the formation of a complex social structure. The Vikings weren't just fighters, they were also savvy traders. They established trade routes that spanned from the Middle East to North America. They traded fur, timber, iron, and even slaves. The Vikings integrated into different cultures, exchanging goods, knowledge, and ideas, which helped spread their influence far beyond their Scandinavian homeland. As the Viking Age progressed, their exploration and raids gave way to settlement. Vikings settled in places like Iceland, Greenland, and even parts of the British Isles. They didn't just conquer, they colonized, built farms, and created thriving communities. The Vikings' legacy in these areas is still present today, with many modern Icelanders tracing their ancestry back to these fearless settlers. The Viking Age came to an end around the 11th century, but their legacy still resonates. Modern governments and societies are shaped by Viking influence, from the languages spoken in Scandinavian countries to the legal systems they developed. The Vikings may have been feared warriors, but they were also pioneers who left a lasting imprint on the world. The decline of the Viking Age came as they began to assimilate into Christian Europe. As kingdoms strengthened and trade routes became safer, the need for Viking raids diminished. In the end, the once feared raiders became part of the European political and cultural landscape. Their mythos faded, but their contributions to the world persisted. Much of what we know about the Vikings comes from sagas and myths that were passed down through generations. These tales of gods, heroes, and battles have been romanticized over the years. The story of Ragnar Lothbrok and his sons is perhaps the most famous, showcasing the Viking ideal of bravery and strength. These legends continue to inspire modern depictions of Viking culture. Today, Viking culture is celebrated in film, television, and video games. Shows like Vikings and The Last Kingdom have brought the Viking Age back into the spotlight. These portrayals, though often fictionalized, highlight the enduring fascination with Viking warriors, their myths, and their way of life. The Viking image has become synonymous with adventure, strength, and exploration. What set the Vikings apart from other ancient cultures was their advanced navigation skills. They used the stars, sunstones, and even the wind to guide them on their long voyages. This ability allowed them to cross vast oceans and reach distant lands, cementing their place in history as one of the greatest maritime civilizations of the ancient world. Viking women were strong, independent, and had unique roles within their society. They managed households, oversaw the land, and sometimes even fought alongside men. Viking women had more rights and freedoms than their counterparts in many other cultures, and their influence in Viking society was significant. The Norse gods, especially Odin, Thor, and Loki, played a huge role in Viking life. Vikings believed that their actions on Earth were guided by these deities. Their myths influenced everything from battle tactics to everyday decisions. The belief in the gods gave Vikings the courage to face death and the strength to conquer. Viking warfare was as much about psychology as it was about physical combat. The Vikings used fear to their advantage, often striking without warning and exploiting their enemies' fear of the unknown. They were ruthless in battle, but they also knew the power of terror, intimidation, and surprise, often leaving their enemies paralyzed by fear before a sword was even drawn. Viking burial practices were steeped in tradition. Warriors were often buried with their weapons, shields, and sometimes even ships ready to enter Valhalla. The Vikings believed in an afterlife where warriors would be rewarded for their bravery in battle. Their funeral rituals reflected the importance of their warrior culture and the value they placed on honor and strength. Viking art was highly functional and often depicted their gods, warriors, and daily life. The intricate designs on Viking ships, jewelry, and weapons showcased their craftsmanship. These artistic elements told stories of their gods and battles, preserving the Viking legacy in a visual form that still captivates us today. Today, modern Scandinavia still feels the influence of its Viking past. From language to architecture, the Viking legacy is evident in many aspects of Scandinavian culture. Countries like Sweden, Denmark, and Norway celebrate their Viking heritage, which continues to shape their national identity and pride. The Viking Age may have ended long ago, but their myths and stories live on in modern culture. Whether in books, movies, or games, Vikings continue to be portrayed as larger-than-life characters. Their history, culture, and ideals of bravery, exploration, and freedom continue to inspire fascination and respect. The Vikings were more than just warriors. They were explorers, traders, and innovators who helped shape the world. From their legendary raids to their settlements in new lands, the Viking Age left a permanent mark on history. Their legacy lives on today, not just in the stories we tell, but in the very cultures they helped form.